Hiya, this is Jenny from Just Being Me, and you're listening to the Learning to Love Yourself podcast, the show that inspires you to put yourself first.
Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness. Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness.
Welcome back to the Learning to Love Yourself podcast, and I am here today with the very lovely Nicola Tonsager. She's somebody that's come into my world over the last couple of months, and I absolutely love talking with her. We've talked at length about soul, but today we're going to talk about Nicola's actual own journey. So welcome, Nicola. Let's hear a little bit about who you are and where you're at.
Hello, Jenny. It's lovely to be here with you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And it's just great to chat with you again.
Yes.
I'm Nicola Tonsager, and predominantly I very much with soul, and I lean into that myself. And I would say I have just been through maybe a couple of difficult years, as lots of people maybe have, and just realizing myself at a little bit of a deeper level, a little bit more of a more connected level, really stripping away lots of things that perhaps we think we should do within life, we think we need to do within life, and really leaning into what feels good for me, actually, and where I really want to be as opposed to do. Yeah.
So was there a moment where you actually just kind of went, okay, I don't want to be like this anymore. Something has to change?
When I hit 50, that was a really big awakener for me. I didn't think that it was a big deal from an age perspective at all. And to be honest, I don't think it's a big deal at all. So let's be, I think age is just a number. But I think there was something when I hit 50 that just made me realize that I had probably lived more life than I had ahead of me. I was doing all sorts of work that I loved to do. I was also working part-time in a day job at that particular moment in time as well. But I suddenly thought, I just want to live my passion. I want to do the work that makes a difference. I want to bring my work to a wider stage because I know it makes a difference. And now you're on a timer. So what are you going to do?
That's a biggie, isn't it? That is a biggie. Because I'm also in my 50s, and I have to say it is my 50s that kind of made that realization. There are other things that I needed to change, but the 50s was that realization of, oh, okay. So what did you do to support yourself in that transition?
For me, it was all about really connecting into myself. So it was loads of self-care, but not in a woo way, not all about spirituality. Sometimes it was doing the stuff I needed to do. So it was making sure that I ate well, making sure that I slept well, making sure that I connected, grounded myself. I was connecting into nature. I mean, I left my job. I jumped straight into full time in my business. And that was a huge learning curve for me because I learned so much about myself. And I was being pulled in different directions, as you do when you learn and you do something differently. Mm-hmm. It's like, do you listen to this person? Do you listen to that person? And at the end of the day, the only thing I could come back to was me. So I spent an awful lot of time in quiet. I spent an awful lot of time really just leaning into what my body was saying, really leaning into how I was feeling, recognizing when I wasn't feeling aligned and trying to understand what that was. So was it fear? Was it just that I was learning something different and I didn't quite know how to do it? Was it a signal that actually I was heading in the wrong direction, making a wrong turn at a particular moment in time? And what did I need to do to bring myself back? So I spent a lot of time really, I suppose, analysing how I felt and what was really connected, what was really right, what was really aligned within me, and how to recognise that.
And it's such an important thing, isn't it? Recognizing who you are.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I think we spend so much time being the people that other people need. So when you're at work, when you're parenting, when you're with your friends, depending on the situations, you're the person that other people need. And somewhere, especially for me, somewhere along the line, who I was got lost.
Mm.
And that ability to sit back and just hear your inner self.
Absolutely, it is, Jenny. And for me, when I lose myself, when I lose connection with who I am, that's when I start to feel overwhelmed. That's when I start to have lots of pressure and I don't know what to do. And I find myself in that fight or flight mode, and I find my body really tight. And of course, you don't necessarily recognize it in your younger years at all. And I've probably been through that process so many times. And the joy of being slightly older is that you do start to know yourself better. You know yourself better, and you don't give so much consideration to perhaps other people's viewpoints. Hopefully, you don't. But for me, that starting to feel overwhelmed and starting to really feel tight, that's a key indicator that I've lost something somewhere and I'm needing to reconnect.
It's an interesting thing. I was having a conversation this morning about energy, and that now I don't give my energy away so easily because I choose where I put my energy. Do you find that yourself?
Absolutely. Boundaries have become really important. Boundaries within myself as well.
Yeah.
Because that's interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like, something that just clicked with me a few years ago was, don't break the promise you make to yourself, Nick, because that undermines your trust in everything that you're saying to yourself and everything that you're doing for yourself. So that's one of the things I've been very careful about over the last few years is, if I'm going to do something, can I commit to it? Can I promise myself I'm going to do it? And if I can't promise myself I'm going to do it, then I need to take a step back and think, actually, is this the right time, or is it the right option? But certainly stepping my energy back and thinking, actually, do I want to be in this space? And particularly if we look at the online world as well, I have withdrawn from lots of stuff that I was doing, lots of spaces I'm in, because it's actually, no, it doesn't feel right. It's not lighting me up. It's not lifting me. And when I come off this call, when I come out of this space, do I feel great? No, I don't. In fact, I feel a lot less than great. So, I need to manage my energy. I need to be careful. Not careful, that's the wrong word, but I need to be considered, actually, about how and where I place my time, my energy. Yeah, definitely.
And you were just talking about online spaces, so for me, I've found with the abundance of screen spaces, and especially because now I work on a screen for the majority of the day, I really, really find that self-care has to be built up around that. In the social media place, you can get sucked into so much. You get into that scroll hole and you can get sucked into other people's dramas, and that's another boundary place. Do you find that social media interrupts your day-to-day self-care and manageability?
I've definitely had to be more considered with the amount of time I spend on social media. I think it's really easy. What I've actually found is that if I am procrastinating about something and I don't want to make a decision about something, I can scroll for England. That doesn't help me make a decision. So for me, I recognize that when I am spending a lot more time on social media that isn't work, that isn't connecting with people that I want to connect with, it's avoidance.
Yeah.
And when I'm not avoiding, I'm actually quite good. So I will go on and I will connect, but I'll also make sure that I have some downtime, because we're not meant to live on a screen and we're not meant to have a phone attached to our hand. And, I don't want, in a few years' time for my hand to suddenly turn into a phone that I'm tapping everywhere. It's that ability to be in our body, in nature, rooted, so important.
And so you've created that balance between being on a screen and doing your self-care, just being you elsewhere. Because I know you have a practice that we have a practice that we share, and you spend a lot of time cold plunging. Not a lot of time, but you cold plunge on a regular basis, I should say.
I do. I love it.
I find the cold plunge affects you.
It's actually all about self-acceptance for me. And it's as soon as I'm in it, it just soothes my nervous system. It's literally, whatever's been going on, and I usually go in the morning. I'm not usually an evening girl, so it is usually sometime in the morning, usually in the first couple of hours that I'm up. But for me, it's like a reset. And it's just, I'm there, I'm in it. There's a huge sense of self-acceptance. Sometimes it makes me aware of feelings. It makes me aware of something moving through me that I hadn't been aware of before. And it's really interesting because I went on a ice bath day because I wanted to do the hard thing. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do something difficult. And for me, going in an ice bath was that. And yet, I have got so much more from it that I didn't expect to get once I started working with it regularly. Yeah. So it's my connection. It's my whole mind, body, spirit connection in a really practical way. That's not meditative, but is a real tangible experience, and that's just total acceptance in the moment.
It's interesting how we all experience it differently, isn't it? Because I'm very much a later on in the day sort of plunger. I like to do so that it is a reset, but it's kind of a reset from the day, so that I can go into my evening, feeling much better about life. Just sort of shaking off all of those energies that you haven't wanted to take on board, but have got a bit stuck, perhaps. And you can get rid of that. So for me, it's much more about that. I do a lot of meditating whilst I'm in there. But yes, I also recognize that the moment for just being and looking at what's going on around you. We have just created a corner, because I have been doing mine down at my daughter's, but we just created a corner to have our own. And it's actually right by the bushes where the birds go in. So it'd be interesting to see whether the birds are still going to come. I'm not very good with birds close up if they flap at me, but it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So is there anything else that you would say really lights you up as a self-care?
For me, the thing that kind of really lights me up is nature. I mean, just really, I had an experience, 2014 it was. I was walking my dog where I lived in the country. And I think I had a moment, and whether it was a Kundalini awakening or something, I'd been working with energy for 20 odd years. It wasn't kind of an energetic thing. Whether it was like just an awakening or something deepening within me. I remember walking this country path and I could literally feel the trees. I could literally feel them just connecting into my energy and literally almost impressing themselves upon my energy. And I know it sounds nuts, but then lots of things that sound nuts are actually just those things that are so brilliant. I had waves of bliss moving through me for about 3 or 4 days afterwards. And I still have that. There is nothing that soothes me as much as being in the presence of trees in nature, but in the presence of trees if possible. There is just something so expansive about their energy, and it centers me, it grounds me, it connects me. And when I'm walking, particularly if life is a bit busy, I can hear myself in a way that sometimes I can't at other times. It's almost as though you're connecting into not just your own energy, but you're connecting into part of the collective energy that you're part of. And it really helps me hear myself outside of hearing myself, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yes. But it's a really interesting thing, because we talk a lot about, or I talk a lot about in my world, about nature, about grounding, about being outside, even if it's just managing to take a step outside the back door, and take some deep breaths, just, get as much as you can in the day. But I go back to when I was younger, and it would be like, nature, what for you? Trees? Okay. Well, I can kick the leaves when, and when they fall down. But really, and I think it's more because I've become more connected to myself.
Yeah.
That I can now appreciate much more nature, because I don't know about for you, but for me, life is so much simpler now. I don't require many materialistic things. For me, one of the most beautiful things is to go for a walk with my husband down our tidal road and see all the differences the tides make while it's coming out, then walk up the valley through the trees. That if somebody said to me, what would you like to do this weekend? I'd say that 20 years ago, I'd have been saying, oh, let's go to a restaurant, or let's go to a show, or, now those are lovely treats, but they're not something that if you said, what would you like to do? It would come straight out of my mouth. It would be a walk. that would come straight from the I honestly never thought I would say that.
Yeah. There's a real beauty, isn't there? And there's a real connection in the simplicity that we so often miss. You know, we whiz through life, we get on that train, we're looking at all the glitzy things all around us, and yet the simplicity is right there, just waiting to be noticed and waiting to support us. And I think you're absolutely right. I would also say that connection to oneself really helps you recognize the power of nature.
We went to visit the largest tree in England earlier on this year. We tried to find it last year but couldn't, but we managed to find it this year, and it's up in North Devon, and it's a Douglas fir.
Oh, lovely.
And it is huge, absolutely huge. We've got some beautiful photographs and lots of photographs of me. I've got my arms as far as I can get them and my head resting on this tree because I could feel the life in this tree.
Yeah.
And from that, I've gone on now to being able to touch other trees and feel the life in other trees because it is a living thing. It does have an energy.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you've slowed down enough, you can feel that energy, can't you? You know?
And it's unmistakable.
Yes.
It's not something, you know, because you have those things that did I have that experience? Was that real? And I'm a great believer in questioning. So trusting the experience, but saying, okay, well, I've had this experience. I'd like to know more, because for me, doubt is saying, I don't believe I had that experience. So we start to close ourselves down. So I'm a great believer in questioning, but with nature, particularly with trees, I think it's so tangible that you just can't doubt it. You can't doubt the experience you're having in the moment.
And just quickly before we start looking at what you do rather than who you are, but I think back to being a child and spending most of my life barefooted running around, much to the bane of my parents. And knowing that as a child, you're very much more grounded, and you kind of go, there's a reason for that, because you're connecting yourself to the ground. And I was thinking that the other day when I was watching some children in the paddles with nothing on. And, you know, the parent was getting quite cross, you know, put your shoes on, put your wellies on, get out of it. But the children were quite happily splashing around in these muddy puddles barefooted.
Yeah, it's that joy in the moment, isn't it? And it's a little bit like animals as well. If we could be a little bit more like animals were. So we're just in the moment, and there's just that present awareness in the moment. You know, it's not about what happened yesterday. It's not about worrying what tomorrow is bringing. There's just that present moment awareness in the moment that is joy or is frustration or is whatever it is, but it's just in the moment, and in the moment it's okay.
I'm forever saying be more dog, because I watch my little dog who is always around with me, and I watch her, you know, and she looks at me as I'm going with those eyes of, am I coming? Am I coming? Am I coming? But when I come back, she just is in the joy of the fact that I've returned, not in the fact that I didn't take her.
Yeah.
But the fact that I've returned, here is the person that I love. And that, when I look at that and I see the love and the in the moment and her just being, you know, sometimes she'll sit in the garden and her little nose is just twitching around, you know, and she's just totally in the moment. So my thing is always be more dog.
Absolutely. Totally would agree with that 100%.
So tell us what you do.
What do I do? I work with soul signatures, which are a channeled process. So energy is a really big part of who I am. It's always been a big part of who I am. And I guess it's helped me understand myself in different ways. But I channel soul signatures. So they're channeled, and they help people to understand core qualities of soul that are present within their life, how they're guiding them, the qualities, the characteristics that they're asked to step into and really embody, to move into a deeper sense of self, a deeper acceptance of self, and to really recognize that sense of soul alignment in a way that's practical, but that also inspires trust and confidence.
So for those who don't know, what does channeled mean?
So channeled means that I have received the information from a source outside of my practical intellectual self. And when I say that, it could be that it was given from guides, from angels, from spirit guides, from source, or it could be that it was actually channeled from the energy of soul. So, but it arose from the energetic aspect rather than the practical thinking. Yeah.
And that's a wonderful, isn't it? I do some work with somebody else within there, and it's a wonderful way to connect as well, isn't it?
Oh, it's brilliant. And it's one of those things that you will recognize, Jenny, as well. Like we were talking about trees, there is a moment when you're in receipt of that, when you're receiving that, you cannot doubt it.
Yeah.
And when the mind comes in afterwards, you might think, I have no idea what I'm going to do with this. I don't know how to take it forward. And the questions start to arise, but you cannot doubt the validity of it in that moment of receiving.
So if that has piqued anybody's interest, we will put all of the ways to connect with Nicola down below. Please go and connect, look her up, see what she does, make contact, because Nicola is an amazing human being and you will get so much from the connection from her. So thank you so much for coming along today, Nicola. It's been great to chat to you.
It's been really lovely. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're very welcome. And we'll see you all soon.
Are you feeling stuck? Do you want to be able to create a better conversation with yourself, but just don't know where to start? I offer a free 20-minute session to see where you want to be and how to get you there. Just click on the link below. Remember, it's free. Book your space. It could change your life.
Thanks for listening today. If you'd like to know more, you can find all the links down below. Oh, and don't forget to press subscribe so you can catch the next one. See you soon.